and welcome back to Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the Late Night Show, Late Show for the website, cpluscom.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Hey, I've got a monologue for you, so let's hear some of the things that I prepared for it. This week, President Donald Trump gave the longest State of the Union address at 107 minutes, beating the previous record, which was set by him during last year's address at 99.5 minutes. By next year's, he'll be pressing in on Marvel movie runtime, so expect to see the rights facsimile of Samuel L. Jackson appear during the end credits to recruit for the dumbass Avengers Initiative. I assume it'll be this guy. Get your hand out of my pocket, Blackie. During the speech, Trump berated Democrats for not standing on 3 separate occasions when their Republican colleagues did. He called them crazy for not doing so, but at least they can stand without a walker. Most of them, anyway. The men's U.S. hockey team appeared at the State of the Union after their overtime win at the Winter Olympics. They partied with FBI Director Kash Patel. Trump gave them, the men, a dinner of McDonald's. Meanwhile, the U.S. women's hockey team are getting a weekend-long party in Vegas from Flavor Flav. So who's the real winner? I mean, if it's anything, it's them. It's those guys. Look at that McDonald's. Look at all that food. Oh, delicious. Trump awarded 5 awards at the State of the Union, including 2 military pilots and 1 hockey player, which feels a lot like eating McDonald's at the White House after being in Milan, Italy. During the speech, Trump said beef, egg, and chicken prices are falling. Yeah, it's because you're not ordering any more McDonald's for the night. Fast food pricing works a lot like Uber surge pricing when you're around. Wherever Air Force One lands, the immediate area automatically sees a rise in price for any meat-based product. You know what? I take what I said back. You're definitely getting a late night Big Mac, Donald. Oh, you did such a good job with that speech, Donnie boy. You deserve this. Xbox has a new CEO and CCO, and this is what they look like. Oh, dang, it looks like we're stuck in a Windows Vista boot loop. I'm sorry about that. We'll come back to this joke a little later in the monologue. And finally, Bill Gates acknowledged his affairs and apologized to his staff at the Gates Foundation, and we have exclusive video. Here's what that's going to look. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry about that. That's the monologue. Oh my gosh. Would you believe that I messed up the last joke, the delivery of the last joke with the GIF? Go watch the video if you're just listening to it. But I messed up the delivery of the last joke. And I just said, restart it. I came in under this time. The last time it was 4 minutes. I was at 4 minutes at that point. I was like, let me get in there. Let me deliver it more quickly. Welcome back in. It's been a couple of weeks since I did this because late night was off for a couple of weeks. So, yeah. When I see that on the RSS feed, when I see that on the RSS feed, I go and I saw the weeks climb up. And I went, man, I'm just never going to do the show again. That's how it's going to be when Colbert leaves. Also, this week I watched more Colbert than I've watched in the last 2 years. Very true. Let's get into what happened this week in late night. It was everybody returned, and we saw just what feels like the beginning of. I know it's not sweeps week, but it feels like winter sweeps week at this point. Just so many guests, so many bits, so little time. For the Tonight Show on Jimmy Fallon, he had the likes of Tracy Morgan. And he also had Nev Campbell twice performed Strategy, which is a song that if you haven't heard, you're missing out. It's a great song. Courtney Cox, Jeff Probst. He played Pictionary with some people from Survivor as well. Morgan Freeman appeared. Mike White was there. Jackson White. I don't know who that is. Tell Me Lies. Okay. Carter Faith performed, and Priyanka Chopra Jonas. I was watching that episode this morning, and the moment she popped up on screen, I just went, God damn, that's a beautiful woman. What a beautiful woman. Ugh. I'm just so angry at my life. Bobby Cannavale was there, and Casey Shornama performed stand-up. For Late Night with Seth Meyers, he had several closer looks. His buddy John Oliver was there. Ben Marshall was there, and he did a bit where he walked on with a giant jacket. He walked through the snow. If you go look at his Instagram, he did make a video about walking through the snow because they couldn't send a car to 30 Rock, and also he works there, so I'm sure he would have to walk there for SNL this week regardless. But it's very funny. It's a very funny video, just a video on top of this. So if you didn't see that video, then only saw the interview, you'd be like, oh, that's fun. That's funny. But if you saw the video, you'd be like, oh, that's very funny. We saw the Scollywood Minute return, and it's just another great a couple of minutes of bashing Seth. Tony Shalhoub, friend of the show. I've spoken to Tony Shalhoub. Friend of the show, Tony Shalhoub was there. They did another, and this happens with Jimmy Kimmel Live, and this also happens with the Tonight Show. They do all these partnership videos, and they're fun. If this allows for these late night shows to continue to pay people, let them do it. Jenny Slate, Michael Vignola cooked, Lizzo, Jack Shane, and it feels like there's more closer looks this week than ever because of the State of the Union. John Hamm was there as well, and Anderson .Paak. I say Pac. I know it's Pac. Don't berate me. On Jimmy Kimmel Live, Taylor Tomlinson came in to talk about her late night, her special, excuse me. Christina Applegate appeared, which was so wonderful to see, and she has a new book out, and we know that she is suffering from MS, but it's wonderful to see her getting out there and not being confined to her house. Like I believe she said that she was like never going to act again and just like not going to leave her house. But I'm glad that she's bringing awareness to multiple sclerosis. Arlo Parks performed. Linda Perry also performed. There's also a wonderful conversation. This audience did not, even though they spend 40 minutes clapping during Kimmel. See now I make fun of Kimmel now, and I spoke to one of his writers, and I don't feel bad, but I do think it's funny. I should have brought it up during the interview. I don't think that. Let me finish out the week. Pod Save America, Jason Bateman, Chloe Kim, Dave and Benny, Benny Blanco and Dave Bird, Little Dicky, and Sterling K. Brown. Pod Save America. This conversation was so interesting, especially it was a conversation following this State of the Union, which I believe Jimmy Kimmel and the Late Show with Stephen Colbert they both did live episodes after. Well, I assume for Kimmel his was live to tape, but he said during his monologue that it was still going on when he's like, we had to start shooting the show, which is so funny. But for it's. I like it when Kimmel can get serious and have a serious conversation, like when he talked to Mike Lindell and when he talked to Hunter Biden. He also did make a crack joke at Hunter Biden, which was hilarious. But whenever he's able to sit down and actually talk and have an interview, he's good at it because obviously he worked in radio for years. And I just wish the producers for both The Late Show and for Jimmy Kimmel Live would let the host and not have have the audience chime in on everything. I think we just need to have a little bit more decorum when it comes to late night. And this Pod Save America interview was great because it was a conversation between five guys who and their fries, big old bag of greasy fries, and they were just talking about. I'm sorry, and they were talking about what happened during the speech and the state of the union, of this union that we all live in. And this audience didn't know what to do with themselves because, I'm sure that they were and you can hear just like a disparate amount of single claps out there every so often. This is what happens when you have a conversation. You're not just, you're sitting there, you're discussing something that is important, and you're not just being, because my big problem with Jimmy Kimmel's monologue and Colbert's monologue, or Colbert's show in general, is that they just make statements and then people start, and the Daily Show too, and people start clapping instead of laughing. We're not, and like there's a lack of jokes across the board. Whereas you watch Tonight Show and Late Night and sometimes the Daily Show, that you're not being explained to. You're getting jokes along with some of the explanations. It's it's just let the hosts. The best thing I could say about this is let the hosts let them tell jokes, and that's all we need. Something just happened. Hold on. Okay. Let the host, because this 20-minute conversation was just, it's exactly what this audience needed. Instead of just sitting there hollering after everything. And you say, why do you do this? Why do you still do this? Because I like watching late night. In the same way, when I complain about Peloton, when they step up on their little pedestals and they talk down to the audience, they just talk down the audience. They talk, see this thing. They talk down to the people taking classes. No, just teach. Anyway, for the Late Show, Ray Romano popped up, and then let's see. They aired the questionnaire for Emma Thompson. I don't think I've ever seen a questionnaire I think I've seen like 2 seconds, like Michelle Obama, and then I don't understand this. Ray Romano again. Let's see. Why did they break these up? John Dickerson was the guest for the State of the Union live episode. Mitski performed, and that, you know what? I'll say that State of the Union episode was good. God, I hate this fucking cable. Let's see. A writer pitched herself to the world, and I don't understand the bit. And it's just not for me. And the only this is so bad. When I watched that clip, and she pitched herself, I guess for work and for dating, and I just went, she's white, she'll be fine, which is true. Tiana Taylor, Bradley Whitford, Kurt and Wyatt Russell, it's just great to see them together. Although there's a spinoff, and see Matt performed. There's a spinoff of the Monarch show on Apple TV, which is a spinoff of the Godzilla and King Kong movies, and it's just going to be starring Wyatt Russell, and we don't need that. We don't need that young version of that character running around doing whatever it is. We get it. On the Daily Show, Jon Stewart came back on Monday. A. Michelle Dickerson was his interview guest. And then Desi Lydic took over hosting duties for the rest of the week. She spoke to Padma Lakshmi, Jonathan Haidt, and Catherine Price, and Krista Miller. And then we had appearances by Michael Costa, Jordan Klepper, and Grace Kludenschmidt. On Last Week Tonight, John Oliver covered Twitter. Anyway, that's it. That was everything that happened this week on Late Night. For the main story, we've got this thing from the Hollywood Reporter. It's about Taylor Tomlinson. She's back where she started, written by Mikey O'Connell. I'm older than Taylor Tomlinson. I am learning this now. The reason I picked this up is because, hold on, I have to find it. I have to find the quotes. She spoke about After Midnight because Mikey asked her about it. And we all know that the decision that she decided to move on from the show because she wasn't a late night host. She didn't want to. That's essentially what she said. Hey, I don't want to do this, but you should continue the show. This is what Mikey asked. I understand that it is financially a very tough model to work with, but when there's still such a level of prestige and quality, the rationale alone feels like a cop-out. That's just my opinion. She responded, it's interesting how the argument is like nobody wants to watch people talk. People are watching hours of people talking on podcasts, on YouTube, and now Netflix. I've been doing all these podcasts, and it's so interesting too because you go to some studios and it is a TV show. They have a team of 8 or 9 people, 20 lights, and a beautiful setup. I don't know. It's if executives are saying people don't want to talk, then that's an insane. People don't want to watch people talk. That's an insane notion because we've had talk shows for decades. People love seeing other people talk, especially when it comes to celebrities. They just want to get behind the scenes of their lives. Now, on the show itself, she said something very important that I thought is smart to point out. Boy, I'm sitting so far from the mic, but it is picking me up well. She said it's sort of a muddy timeline because a decision had been made to be renewed, but I didn't know that. So she made her decision to leave, and the show was already renewed, but those happened. Those things happened separately of each other. So it wasn't as simple as they told us you're being renewed, and I went, no, thank you. That's not what happened, which I don't think was. That's not something that I believed had happened. If that's what people thought, then you're insane. That's a dumb thing to think. She said that show was so much fun to do. The writers' room was amazing. They came up with different games and jokes for different people every episode, blah, blah, blah. It reached a point, this is very important, where I was touring. I was doing press for the show. I was doing the show, and I had some health stuff going on. I just couldn't do both things anymore. I so badly wanted them to just hire someone else to host it because I think there are so many comedians who would have been absolutely amazing hosts for that show. And they did something in a similar fashion with when Craig Ferguson left and prior to James Corden taking over, they just had different hosts every single week. And I understand it costs some money to run that late night show, but again, I've spoken about this so many times. That show After Midnight in particular was so cheap and so flimsy, and it looked like it. And you know what? The games were fun. I wasn't a fan of the audience, which I have such an issue with audience interaction. I have an issue with fan interaction too. I don't want people. We're not the same. The performer and the audience needs to stay separate. But with After Midnight, they could have done a similar thing, and just have people, come in and host for a week and just do just pay 4 different people because you have 3 contestants and 1 host, 4 different people per week, and instead of having 3 different comedians every single night, just do like a week of those same people, have them switch in and out, and see who wins the most points by the end of the night or by the end of the week. Boom. Or do something fun because now they have that Byron Allen show, Comment to the Leash, back, and who is that for? Byron Allen sets somebody up for a story. So I heard that you really like seeing the Orioles play. You like eating Oreos with the Orioles, right? This is a natural conversation. Anyway, and it's unfortunate, I'm continuing the quote, that they didn't go in that direction because in the 2 seasons we got it to a format that CBS seemed to feel good about. It's a very different show than the one that I signed on for, and I was really happy with and proud of where we all got. The hardest decision I ever made professionally, by far, was not to come back for a 3rd season, but I couldn't sustain it. Again, I still think that show could be on today, and paired with Colbert's show, and paired with all of these other late night shows, it is something different and something that stood out from the pack. And I've said this before. I think what they wanted and what they expected was to get at midnight numbers. Or even to get Corden numbers, because that was even bigger than at midnight. But the problem with that is that we're in a new age of television and social media, and none of that is any longer viable. And I'm sorry, I thought I heard Maverick throwing up, so I was just like, what am I saying right now? Mikey's, is that the guy's name? Mikey says, what surprised me about the cancellation was that the format seemed like a workable evolution for late night. Panel shows are less expensive and so big in other countries, especially the UK. Taylor agreed. And it was such a great opportunity for comics to get in front of a new audience and get a TV credit and make jokes in a way that didn't burn their material on stage. So many comedians that appeared on that show, yes, some of them were big and some of them are play recurring characters in a lot of TV shows now. But a lot of those comedians were people that you just didn't know, or you've recognized them and go, oh, well, now this person, who's that? A young lady on Abbott Elementary. She plays the school counselor, I guess. I don't know. She's the tall one. But if you'd be remiss to know who she was prior to after midnight. She did, and I'm not saying that she didn't work before then, but I'm saying that she was a stand-up. She was a comedic person doing other comedic work. But when you see them on a show like that, and then when you see them on Abbott Elementary, you go, boom, 2 to 2. Let me follow that person online or whatever. But then you have the regular people you see all the time, like who were even on At Midnight, like Paul Scheer and Rob Hubel and the series producer Tom, what's his face, from Reno 911. I'm blanking. Reno 911. It's Tom Lynn, and I didn't have to finish. I didn't even have to press click, and that's what happens. I press click, everything comes. Everything comes. She says she's grateful, but when Colbert got canceled, I was like, holy shit, really? How long would we have been on then if they were going to cancel Colbert? I do think that after midnight being canceled, was a part of why Colbert was canceled. But, now it's all doesn't matter. Anyway, those were Taylor's comments regarding her time on After Midnight, and I feel like she's covered it. Like I'm not kidding. She did 2 years, and she made the decision to leave. I feel like she no longer has much to talk about, with the exception of, hey, it was a great thing we did, and it was something different, it was something fun. And again, I think as much as I dislike the audience in that show, as much as I dislike the audience of any late night show, I do think that After Midnight was successful in doing what it needed to do. And it did differentiate itself enough from At Midnight to make it its own name. I mean, first of all, After Midnight is a very funny name. And then yes, they're right. The panel show is just a much better format. When I watch Graham Norton, I'm much more interested in what people have to say. They seem like they're having fun. Yes, they're a little bit lubricated, but it just seems like it's more fun than getting 6 total minutes with John Hamm, and we're just sitting there, and then as time ticks down, the host has to look over and go, all right, that's it, we're done, sorry. That's why Fallon stands out to me, because it's just he's having fun. He's being a little silly boy. But I think the more time we spend with a late night show, the better it can only get over time. Look at Colbert's show; he was show running it when the show was on for the first year or two, I think. But he was show running it, hosting it, executive producing it, and then eventually, when they got a showrunner, the show became a much better version of what it is. When I think Kimmel's show, and mind you, my first episode of Kimmel's show was when Uncle Frank died. I very, very distinctly remember going like, oh, Jimmy Kimmel from The Man Show, because I was watching reruns on G4 TV. But I was like, or I guess at that point it was Tech TV, but Jimmy Kimmel, I remember like, I wonder what he's hosting a show. Let me go see it, because at that point he'd been on for like 7 years or something, and then his uncle Frank died probably like the day before, and then I watched that monologue and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll watch the next one. I watched that episode and then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll watch the next one, and then it was funny the next one. He's got a history of crying, that guy. But each show, like look at Seth, look at Late Show. Is that Late Show or Late Night? Late Night, where Seth eventually figured out, hey, I gotta sit down and the show will be better. And he did. He sat down during the monologue. So for After Midnight, if it was given a chance post Taylor Tomlinson to live a life, it would have gotten so much better. Every TV show, even if it's a show I don't like, every TV show should get 2 seasons, because you don't know what you're doing in the first season. And then if a show is doing well in the first season, then like, hey, you knew what you were doing. Like this new Game of Thrones show, A Night of Seven Kingdoms. Hey, the first season's good, and we can make it better, but the first season's good, so you don't have to worry about much. But then you have a show like Universal Basic Guys, a show I watched 3 seconds of, and I said, not for me. At least that show should at least get 2 seasons. All right, listen, I'm done. If you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see pretty much everything I've ever done. If you want to see me talk to famous people, semi-famous people, and not so famous people, go to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see the interviews. I just put out an interview with the great comedian Jackie Cation. We talked a lot about stand-up and the state of the world and all that stuff. So go there. If you want, that's where you can also see a video version of this show, as well as the other podcasts. LinkedIn Logs, the Jobs Podcast, and the Constitutionals, the Entertainment Business News Podcast. All that. YouTube.com/cpluscomedy. Subscribe to those podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at cpluscomedy on YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. Me on those platforms at Chad Black White. See you next time. Bye.